Welcome to Pathways Through the Prairie. I am your host, State Librarian Mary Soucie. We will interview North Dakota librarians and library staff, state government leaders and employees, and interesting North Dakotans. Join me as we meander down the pathways through the prairie. I am joined today by McVille Public Library Director Marilyn Dehne. Although Marilyn and I have communicated, we haven't yet met in person. And so I am really looking forward to getting to know her story today. Thank you, Marilyn, for taking time out of your day to join me.
Thank you.
Marilyn, the mission of the State Library is creating pathways to information and innovation. What was your pathway to your position as library director?
My pathway was to live in McVille, is what it was. My husband and I retired and we moved to McVille, and it's a small community and it takes every heartbeat to make the whole town work. So when we got here, I was approached by some of the existing board members who were my teachers. And I'll tell you, that's really cool, working with my teacher, my English teacher. And it's really crazy. She asked me to proofread something for her. That's like not okay, but anyway, weird. And anyway, so then I just became part of the library board. There are things in small communities since we get some public money, there are rules we have to follow. And one of the rules is that we have to live in the city limits to be on the board, and I live in the city limits. And so I was on the board for a while, and then they asked if I would be director, and here I am.
Great. Yes, that's actually in state law.
It is, yeah.
For a city library, unless you're getting county dollars, you have to live within the city limits. So where did you move to McVille from?
Rapid City, South Dakota.
And what brought you, it sounds like you came back to McVille? So what brought you back?
McVille.
Just retirement?
My husband and I, we retired, and he just said to me one day, how about if we move to McVille? And I said, okay, so here we are.
Is it different from when you lived there before?
Yes, different in some ways, and then not in most ways. The one thing that's so different is that the school, it's not just McVille anymore. It's a county-wide school system here. And so that is so different. And the town is different, not as many businesses, but then in the last year, we've really done some community development in town. And so it's coming back more and more. Children are, families and children are coming in. And so it's coming back. It's interesting to see. And a great opportunity for the library. So are you enjoying working at the library? Oh, I absolutely love it. Besides, with the books, you get to be with the kids. And I was a teacher in another life. And so the kids are my favorite, and that's our favorite things to do. We had a reading roundup a couple Saturdays ago, and we made paper frogs jump with batteries. It was pretty awesome. Okay, they didn't jump; they just moved. But so
that sounds like a super fun program. Has there been anything about being a library director that's been surprising?
Yes. I didn't think it would be as political as it is, and it's very political. And then, with the stuff that just happened in the North Dakota legislature, the funding changes, the rule changes that we work with, for our monies, the book banning, very interesting. And it's very interesting how our patrons react to it. And they bring it up. We don't say, so what do you think? They say it to us, or so are you ready to go to jail? And I'm like, I guess,
No, the answer to that question is no, I'm not.
But, yeah.
Has there been, what has been your biggest positive surprise?
Oh, that's a good question. It's just the people that I get to hang out with, the people I work with, the community that I get to be part of. Also, we are very active in the community. The library is. We have many events. We probably, well, you know, we have. It's just awesome being part of this community. I don't know how to say it more than that. I could go on, you know, with all the programming and stuff that we have. But, you know, for a little town of, you know, 392 people, we had 2,000 people walk in our door. And that's a lot of people.
That's phenomenal. And you have a very dedicated core group of volunteers that you work with who have
Yes.
worked there for a long time, which shows really their commitment, but also the community's commitment to supporting the library.
Absolutely.
What do you find are some of the challenges being the director in such a small library?
Part of it is volunteer, finding enough people to work. And the building that we are in is a little challenging at times. So just because it's old, and you know, so you have to just do some adapting. But these are all, you know, just situational things. Nothing too tough. Sometimes the political stuff gets a little daunting because, you know, I have to separate myself from my own personal self to speak for the library. You know, as opposed to give my opinion. You know, that's a situation sometimes, you know.
How has the community reacted to you being there as library director?
Oh, pretty good, pretty nice. I'm from here, so I know a lot of the people already, but I don't know them like I've been here the whole time. I was gone for 40 years. And so, and then sometimes it's so surprising. Somebody walked into my library and asked if they could use the computer. And so, you know, we have a protocol where you have to sign in and blah, blah. And I had to follow him because I thought I should know you. And when I saw him write his name, I was like, oh, shut up. That's not you. You were a little kid, you know, last time I saw you. So, you know.
Yeah. And that happens. The people we know as kids grow up and become adults, which is always fun as a library director to watch that journey of the kids who start out in story time. I was a children's librarian a long time ago, and I'm not connected to any of my patrons from when I was children's librarian, but the first library that I was a director at in Illinois was a pretty small community, and I'm still connected to some of the folks from that community. And watching kids who started out in our Storytime program who are now graduating from high school and college and starting their own families, it's just so wonderful to be connected in people's lives through all of the various journeys that they have. Has that been surprising to you, the connections that you have with patrons?
No, well, it's not surprising because I love McVille. I have always loved McVille. You know, like I said, we moved back after 40 years, and McVille's always been home. You know, we lived in Rapid City for 30 years, but McVille was always home.
Okay.
And so it's comfortable, familiar, it's safe, it's good.
Just wonderful. It's wonderful to be there. Yeah. What are some of the changes that you've made in the library since you've been director?
Well, we do a lot more I think it's advertising or marketing, I guess is the word. We're just that really has just been the key. It's a lot of the same programs and stuff, but just marketed a little different. We have engaged some of the people from the community who that's what they do for a living, and they have done some really nice guidance, just more aware of what it is. The ladies that I worked with that volunteer here, they're the ones who are so in love with the books and so in love with telling the story that being the director is really the easy part, because all I have to just do is let them just shine. Because they, you know, and about getting the books, the new books, we have a great people buy brand new books, they read them, they bring them to us. So we, you know, that's just kind of way the whole thing is set. You know, it's good. Marketing is one. Another one, it's just make the place inviting. And, you know, when you walk in, you got to have that smile on your face. And it's not a quiet library. So, so it's
Few
a
are these days, unless you're a research library or an academic library.
right.
They tend to still sometimes be quieter, though academic libraries are bringing pets during finals week now to,
Right.
help students with their stress level. So
Yeah.
marketing is often a challenge, especially for our smaller and more rural libraries. What have you found to be a marketing success?
Facebook works a bazillion%. And that's what our community attributes to, or relates to. We were thinking, we were doing some research on having a text message for every event. We did some looking into doing that kind of stuff. So there was another, well, we sponsored a book talk the other about a month ago, and so we asked people coming in the door if they'd like to sign up to get a text, and half of them said, no, I just get my stuff on Facebook. You're on Facebook. I don't need that text.
Okay.
And that came from all demographic. And, that's one thing, I guess maybe now you asked about a challenge. It's the demographic of the age differences, because we have from the littles all the way to 80, and it's to make sure we can get all the information to all of the people, so Facebook seems to work. The younger generations groans at us with Facebook.
Yeah, they're not Facebook users.
Nope,
so how are you getting information out to them?
Our Facebook is also connected with an Instagram account.
Okay.
And so we do stuff like that. Word of mouth still is the best. If you, if you see somebody and you just say, hey, come on over, or we have on Tuesdays, one Tuesday a month, we have something called Tasty Tuesday, and it's our hours are from 10 to 2, and we have a cup of coffee and a sweet treat, and we invite people. Sometimes we have 25 people here, and it's just a set of, you just come and visit, or anybody can come anytime and have a cup of coffee and stuff like that. It's just warm. We try to be warm, inviting, that kind of stuff.
I see your Tasty Tuesday treats on your Facebook, and it's like, oh, I wish I was closer. That looks like a really great treat this week. And who provides those treats?
The board members do. We just all take a turn. But we have had people ask, well, can we bring Tasty Tuesday treats one time? And absolutely, so. Yeah,
so you have a lot of community support, even though you're in a small community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And McVille's a little unique in that you're a volunteer-run library.
Yes.
Does that present challenges?
Some days, not really, because no, not really. Of course,
you just have a strong group of volunteers.
We have a strong group of volunteers, but there's always room for more. Sometimes more people would have some different ideas, and that's okay. Sometimes I feel like it's the Marilyn show. I do, because sometimes it's just my set of ideas that are supported with everybody else. But sometimes some new ideas would be okay.
What's your favorite program to do, Marilyn?
Oh, the kids one. Any kids. Reading Roundup is my favorite on Saturdays. We have it one Saturday a month, and then whatever the topic was, like, we hopped into May. Well, March is probably my favorite because we have a big leprechaun hunt always, and so I get stopped in the street. There's a leprechaun lady, or so did you find the leprechaun? Or not this year, but the year before, we made leprechaun traps all over the building, and they were trapped. Of course, they were tripped, and they stole the goods and all that kind of stuff. So this year, they had already built the leprechaun traps by the time they got here at home. And so it even went as far as the mom had to put green in the milk. Dad put some green food coloring in the potty so that they knew the leprechaun was there. That's my favorite. Those kids are my favorite.
It's almost like Elf on a Shelf, but with the leprechaun.
It is. And this year was great because, St. Patrick's Day and Easter were just so close together. So, we came down here, we read How to Catch a Leprechaun, then we made a leprechaun trap. We're very fortunate in our building. Upstairs is a gymnasium. So we went upstairs, we played a little red light, green light, read another book, How to Catch the Easter Bunny. We came back downstairs, and then so the volunteers downstairs, they put leprechaun feet all over bunny prints, and then we had an Easter egg hunt, and of course their leprechaun traps were tripped. So it was great
Very
fun.
fun. Very
Great fun.
Are there, what's your favorite adult program?
My favorite adult program is, well, we have Knit and Purl. I do not attend because I do not know how to knit or any of that kind of stuff. But there is a group of people who come in and they do their crafts. They sit around, have coffee, do whatever. But then they also talk about books, because I come and, I'm here too. And they talk about books. This one lady, she would just come. She doesn't do it, but she just comes to visit. And then all of a sudden they were talking about a set of books. And now she is reading that set of books. She's done with that set of books and she's on to the next set of books. So, which is just awesome. We also have, we call it the enrichment program, where we've had pharmacists come in to speak. We had a book talk where she was local for many years. She was published in a conglomerate of stories and talking about her having Lyme's disease and the fight with that. And so she came and spoke. That was very interesting. How do you need a will? We do things like that. Then we have some music entertainment. There's my favorite. They're all my favorite.
There's a lot going on for a community of 300 people.
Yes, there is.
And the library is making a difference in their lives in a big way for such a small library. Are there any programs on the horizon that you're excited to introduce to your community?
Well, we are working, we're just in the brainstorming aspect of doing some new, we have, because we are reassessing our budget, all of that kind of stuff. And we're wrestling a little bit with how much money do we put into the building itself? How much do we do to programming and all of that kind of stuff? We do have a nice, they have McVille Days, and the library always opens McVille Days. Last year we had the Waddington Brothers, which we had about 214 people here at that event alone.
Holy buckets.
Right. And then, so we'll have another event like that coming. We also have an ice cream social that same weekend, and we had 200 people at our building again. We're just trying to be part of the community, and then to see the books, the stuff that come back. I guess another one of my favorite parts, I have lots of favorites if you can't tell, is that to see what the community likes to read. And then we try to order the books to supplement that. We have a couple of young readers that they are like really into the Harry Potter, the Percy Jackson, and then more on like that. So we try to get that stuff. Then we do the graphic novels. So we worked with the school to say, okay, talk to me about graphic novels. Which ones would you think they would like? And so we worked with them. We got a set, they got a set. And I will say with the ILL, those graphic novels I probably mail at least one or two of those every week out.
Wow.
So yeah, stuff like that. So, but another cool thing that we do with the school is that, we talked about doing scholarships and stuff like that, but with having a community or a county library or school system. So we decided that with the sixth graders and all of the grade school is here in McVille. And so with the sixth graders for Christmas, we give each one of them a book from the library. And that's how we've decided to handle our scholarship program, kind of,
How is that funded?
Fundraising, we do it, we just,
okay.
And the people here are so generous. They are so generous. And so when we worked with the teachers, so not everybody got the same book because not everybody is at the same reading level, you
Right.
know. And so we worked with the teacher. There's 2 6th grade classes, and everybody got their own book. So, and that was fun to do.
What a wonderful, wonderful gift to give to those students as
Mhm.
well. For some of them, that might be the only book they own.
Right, right. And the lady that helped deliver them, when she was, and she is a former teacher. I'm like the fun teacher. I shouldn't be a teacher because, you know, I just want to have fun. But she said, now this is your responsibility to be a good leader, to show those other kiddos, since you are the top dog here. So it's your responsibility to show them how to read. And I thought, oh, that was great. You know,
Wow.
so yeah, that was
That's really
great
great.
fun. But anyway, here's the other thing, and I'm sorry, I'm just talk.
That's okay. That's the point of the interview, to learn more about you and your amazing library.
Yeah, is to listen to what our patrons say, what they like to listen to. You know, the number one thing that we check out, the number one thing, you know, that's very interesting. You know, of course, the murder mysteries are the number one thing here, you know, and the other thing is it's nonfiction about World War II. And very interesting. Also, that so therefore then it goes to the stories about women in the World War II, like that were spies, or the people who wash the clothes, or all, you know, there's a whole bunch of, there's fiction, nonfiction on that, and they fly off the shelves as much as they can fly in Macville. But
I read a really good book recently. I enjoy historical fiction, but I don't remember I enjoy it until I read a historical fiction, if that makes sense. Anyway, I read a book. It was set in Poland right before and then during World War II. And it was called The Keeper of the Hidden Books. It was a really great book. And of course, I checked it out in Libby and listened to it. I listened to a lot of audiobooks. And so I really, really enjoyed that book in particular.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly the type of book and I'm familiar with that book, and they've checked it out. And speaking of Libby, we have you know, a snowbird population, and they take that and go, and we promoted that for a while. And I had somebody from a couple towns over, their library, they don't have that, and so they asked if they could be part of our library, and of course they can be part of our library. And so, you know, they sent us the application with a very nice donation, and okay. So I think a lot of it is to get the information out there, you know.
That's really awesome. Marilyn, if there's one thing that you would want the listener of this podcast to take away about your library, what would it be?
Just come here and hang out. And we have a reading spot in the back, or you can read the paper, or just come here and hang out. And then take that book home and get in a different headspace. The world's kind of crazy these days, and it's nice to get in a different headspace. So that's kind of what we want it to be, you know.
Books can still take you to a whole nother world, take you to someplace different, and libraries will always be about books. We just will be, but we're about so much more these days than just books. And you've talked a lot about the programs. Is there anything about your library that you think, if somebody learned that you checked out this type of thing, or you had this type of resource available, they'd go, wow, in such a small library, they have X. What would that X be?
I would think some of the newer books. We try to get some, you know, the New York Seller's Best Top 10. We try to get that stuff, and it's not just the stuff that's been around for a while. I think that surprises them. Also, another thing that surprises them is that we're here. That's, you know, another thing is that we're here. So, yeah.
Awesome. Is there a book that you would recommend as librarians, we always get asked that question, right? And
Yeah.
I'm torn because I get asked that a lot. I hate to put other people on the spot, but yet I love to hear what people are reading. So what's your go-to recommendation or your go-to author?
Well, my go-to author is Jana De Leon because I like to, I want to listen to something that's entertaining and that's kind of funny, and she writes the series, it's the Misfortune series.
Mhm.
And, so it's
I
just, that's
love
fun.
those.
Yeah, she just makes it, just the whole situation makes me laugh. And then sometimes because, she was a spy that turned into a librarian that, yeah, moved to a small town. So it's kind of like my life a little bit, except for I wasn't a
I was
spy.
gonna
But
say, maybe we just
well,
learned
you
Marilyn
never
was a
know.
spy
You just
in her
never
past
know.
life.
You just never
First
know.
a teacher, then a spy, and now a librarian. You never know where life is gonna take you, right?
I know. I know. I know.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Marilyn, thank you so much for joining me today on Pathways Through the Prairie. I really enjoyed our conversation. It's been great to get to know you and to get to hear more about your amazing, mighty library. You guys are small but mighty, and you're just meeting the needs of the community in so many ways. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yep.
If you are looking for a particular book, or if you are trying to do some research and you need an article to support that research, you should log into First Search, also known as WorldCat. This is such a rich database of hundreds of thousands of books and articles that are available from libraries across the country. If they are not owned by the state library or by a local North Dakota library, you can request a material be sent to you via interlibrary loan, and the material will be mailed to you or can be picked up at your local public library. It's a really great way to find information about titles, including author and title and different information that you can provide to your local library to order it for you. First Search is a great tool to use when you're trying to find an item in a library.